For lesson 4.1, our question is, how did the geography of Africa affect medieval trade? This is the continent of Africa, and as you can see, 1/3 of it is covered by desert, which is the Sahara Desert. In our last unit, we learned about the Arabian Peninsula, which is really close to Africa. This is Mecca, where Islam started. And then as you can see, there is green here in the middle. So that means that there are forests and a lot of vegetations and so on. And somewhere here in the middle is the savannah. The area that we're focusing on is West Africa, which is this little chunk right here. So we will not be going down into the south of Africa. We are focusing on the west side of Africa. In the desert, there is salt. In the southern forest, right here in West Africa, there is gold. And here in the savannah, right, the savannah is where all the animals and the safari plant, well, the animals live. This is where the kingdom of Ghana is. So there was a lot of trade that went back and forth, top to bottom, bottom to top, to trade salt for gold. The price comparison. In the kingdom of Ghana, salt and gold were worth the same, pound for pound. The comparison today, a pound of salt would be about $1. A pound of gold would be $15,600, which is not the same. But in Ghana, they were worth exactly the same. Now, as far as valuable, and which is more valuable, right, we might be able to see why salt was so important, because we can use it for a lot of things. Yes, gold is very nice and looks pretty, but we can't really do many things with it other than like use it for currency or wear it and so forth. So it's more of like a luxury, whereas salt, we need it in everyday life. So why is salt so important, right? Because it has a lot of uses that give it a high value. So salt absorbs moisture. Salt water conducts electricity. Salt lowers the freezing point and raises the boiling point of water. Salt and water reactions can generate negative ions. So it can be used for cooking, like boiling water, washing some types of vegetables, extinguishing grease fires, improving taste of certain dishes, preserving meat, right, like beef jerky. Health, cleaning airways, washing your mouth, relieving tired feet. So like using Epsom salt to soak your feet. Fatigue or bee stings, you can use it for cleaning. For deodorizing, to remove stains of wine, blood, or rust, keep the windows frost free, or even the roads, right? They salt the roads so that people are not slipping and sliding in places where there's ice on the roads. But it has more than 14,000 known uses. The salt mines. So in the desert, right, in the northern part of Africa, there are these salt mines, right? It's really hot there. It's also close to the sea, and the water evaporates and it leaves behind these salt. These are rock sheets of salt that are ready to be shipped. So this is what salt looks like when they mine it from the mines. Salt traders from the desert traveled in caravans across the Sahara. So in this map of the continent of Africa, we can see that there are so many trading routes that are already set up there, right? And when we look at the landscape of Africa, we can just see that it's a lot of desert, and we don't imagine that all these trade routes are there. But the people that are local there do know the area and know the places where to trade. So anywhere where you see sel, that means salt, right? And ivory, cola, gold, right? And then you see that trade went all the way to Mecca, right? And then the camels were actually introduced by Arabian people into Africa, who came into Africa, and so they began to use it for trans-Saharan trade because they are able to travel long distances, they can carry heavy things, and they can retain water in their humps for about 14 days, right? So it makes them a perfect animal to travel in the desert. So here they are with their sheets of salt. And then here is where the Kingdom of Ghana is, right in the middle of all this trade. Okay, traders had to pay a tax to the King of Ghana in order to travel through his land. So if we look at this diagram, we have salt traders in the north who travel down to the Kingdom of Ghana. They pay the king a tax. Some are going to stay here and trade. Some will continue into the southern forest where they will trade for gold and then continue onward to their journey, stop by Ghana again, pay a tax, and then continue on home wherever it is they came from. So the king of Ghana became really wealthy by charging this extra tax. Right, so here's some images, right, and being paid in gold. Traders would then go to Kumbi, the main market in Ghana, and trade for weapons, tools, jewelry, enslaved humans, and other goods. So here are some kola nuts, hides, leather, ivory, gold jewelry, and enslaved people, right? So like, remember when we saw the cartoon of Muhammad and how Islam began and how there was enslaved people in Mecca? That's because people from the Arabian Peninsula traded a lot with Africa. The salt traders returned to the Sahara, and other merchants from Kumbi traveled further south to the forest along the Niger River. Okay, so again, I explained this diagram. After they trade here, they continue into the southern forest. The merchants would play a drum in the forest to signal that they wanted to trade with the Wangarans for their gold. So this was a silent barter or a silent trade. When people didn't speak the same language, too, they wanted to keep the gold location secret. So there would be a place where people would show up and leave goods, and then there would be some signaling of the drums. The Wangaran people would come out, they would look at the goods that were being offered for trade, and they would leave gold behind, right? So no one really stole from each other or wanted to mess up their chances in getting the gold. And so a lot of people offered a lot of goods for this gold because people wanted it, right? The Wangaran people would leave the gold for the merchants, and in return, the merchants left a collection of other items, right? So this is the trade that happens silently. You leave as many things as you can to offer in exchange for gold, and hopefully you get a good chunk of gold for everything that you are offering to trade. Okay, merchants retrieved the gold and headed back to Kumbi. Along the way, they paid the tax to the king of Ghana. So here we go. Each time you pass through Ghana, you pay a tax. The king becomes very rich. And so please keep in mind this diagram in helping you remember the process of trade across the Sahara Desert. Ghana and the king in the middle, collecting taxes, right? Salt in the desert. It's hot. That's where you're going to find the salt mines. And then the gold in the forest. And people are trading back and forth for it because they're both very valuable. Okay, the end.